Welcome back to Slow Living. I'm Esther, and in this video I will show you how I flipped a thrifted cardigan into a pair of the comfiest pants ever. I was really happy with how this flip turned out. I've actually done a series of a whole bunch of knit flips. So I basically bought a whole bunch of secondhand knits from Savers, the thrift store, and I turned them all into different garments. So either a completely different garment like these pants, or I just added little details here and there to make the style a bit more modern, a bit more current, and to get a lot more wear out of it. So check out those videos if you're interested in that. When I saw this cardigan, I pretty much knew what I was going to do with it, because when I was sifting through the thrift racks, I was looking for pretty much as much fabric as I could get. There's something really beautiful about knitted cardigans because they have this really nice drape, and also I was looking for some good quality fabrics. So I'm pretty sure these ones that I got are actually merino. If not 100% wool, they've at least got a bit of wool in them. I can sort of feel it in the fiber, and so that always makes it a little bit luxe as well. So keep an eye out for really good quality fabrics if you're planning on doing thrift flips like I have done here. The only thing that I would try to fix next time is that I actually wanted an even wider leg, and these sort of came out like a straight leg. But again, that comes back to how much fabric you have. If I had bought fabric from the store, I could of course go back and get more, but because I flipped this from an old cardigan, I sort of was limited with what fabric I had there, and I was still pretty happy with the shape of these pants.
So this was the cardigan as I bought it. As you can see, it's got that sort of drapey waterfall front. It's in a very neutral charcoal grey, which I gravitate towards. If you've seen any of my other videos, you will know that I gravitate towards a minimalist style and a really neutral colour palette. It was $13.99 Australian dollars, which I'm guessing is around 9 to 10 US dollars. As I said earlier, the drape of this fabric is really nice. It's sort of not the same as like a jersey that you would buy off the roll in a fabric store, so that's why I really liked the idea of getting a existing garment and then turning that into something new. So I'm obviously using this existing cardigan as my fabric, but of course you can buy any fabric and use that from the fabric store. It would actually make this project a little bit easier for you. So if you have intended to make your own lounge pants from existing fabric, you can use the same technique that I'm going to talk you through in this tutorial. As with all of my thrift flips, I always try things on first and then sort of try to figure out what I can do with the garment to sort of make it a bit more modern, a bit more current. So here I am trying it on. As I said again in the intro, I knew that this garment had so much drape in it, so much fabric to work with, a lot of yardage. And so yeah, spreading out that side there, you can see how much fabric was in it. And I sort of saw it and I knew that I could turn these into pants. It just had enough fabric to turn into pants, so I'm really glad that my legs are not any longer, otherwise they would have been too short. So I begin this process by folding my fabric in half. Even if I'm working with new fabric, I would still fold that in half because it means you're essentially cutting the work in two. You're cutting pairs instead of having to cut out two individual fronts or two individual backs. You can fold the fabric over and cut your fronts in one go and cut your backs in one go. That was the point in which the camera fell off my makeshift tripod. So what I've done at this point is cut off the sleeves from the cardigan so that I'm left with basically flat fabric to work with. I'm using my jeans as a template for a pant block, so I would suggest you do the same thing. Pick out a pair of jeans that fits sort of not too tightly but not too loosely. I would say loose is better because as I always say, you can take in fabric, you can sort of make things smaller, but it's very difficult to add on fabric if things are too small. So start with a sort of larger pair of jeans. And importantly, before you cut anything, have a little play around with the layout. So you might have seen me move the jeans around from the top to the bottom just to make sure that I'm going to have enough fabric for this project. If you're starting with brand new fabric, then this will be a bit easier because you can always buy more fabric. But because I was using an old cardigan, I had to sort of play around with the layout of these jeans onto the fabric and make sure that I was pretty happy with that before I cut anything out. It was at this point that I realized I was quite short on fabric. So as you can see, that top edge of my jeans is not on any fabric at all. So what I'm going to do, instead of trying to create a new crotch area, which can be quite difficult, Instead, I'm actually going to cut off an extra panel and put that into the sides of the jeans. So after cutting out the general shape of the fronts and backs of my jeans, I then found a spare bit of fabric, and then I used the existing pieces that I'd cut out to make sure that I had enough length, lining that up with my spare fabric, and then just cutting out 2 long pieces, and I'm going to add them to the sides of my pants. Once I have those extra long pieces, they're going to be the first seam that I sew to my pants, so that I essentially have my 2 front pieces and my 2 back pieces ready to go in the right size once I've added on that extra bit of fabric. So now you can see I have my 2 fronts and my 2 backs ready to go. So at this point, we can sew our 2 fronts together in the front crotch seam and also the 2 backs together via the back crotch seam. And then you will see that you have your front and your back that you can put together and join them via the side seams. Once you've done that, your pants should really be taking shape. You can see all your side seams and things like that. For mine, I need to neaten these up a little bit, so you can either overlock them or leave them. I've got these little bits hanging off the edges and the tag is still attached. So I'm just going to trim them off and unpick that tag so that it's not getting in the way when I attach my elastic later. Obviously, if you're working with new fabric, you probably won't have all these little extra bits and bobs. And now that your pants have taken shape, you can actually try them on and see how they fit. See if there's anything in the crotch if you'd like to take it in a bit, or in the side seams, are they a bit too tight or a bit too loose? This is also the best time to check the length. Luckily for me, I was really happy with the length, so I don't have to change that at all. But now I'm going to move on to doing the waistband. I'm going to do an elastic waist because that is the most comfortable in my opinion. So pop the elastic around your waist and at a comfortable sort of length, give it a chop and then simply sew it together with a straight stitch so that it's like this. So now it's ready to attach to your pants. What I like to do is to put that join in the elastic at the center back of your pants, and then you can divide the rest of the elastic into 4 equal parts and then pin each of those equal parts to your front crotch, your back crotch, and the 2 side seams, and then it'll help you as you sew along to get a nice even stretch of that elastic. And now it's ready for us to sew along that top edge. We're going to use a zigzag stitch. I like to use my stepped zigzag. These are the settings that are on my domestic machine. I sort of had to play around with them. I don't actually know what they mean, so maybe you can use this as a guide for your own machine if it has that stepped setting. Otherwise, you can just use a normal zigzag and it should be fine. You can also use an overlocker or a serger if you have one. Once you've gone all the way around, it should look like this. Mine's a little bit messy, yes, but it does the trick. And then you simply fold it over, and I'm going to sew over that same edge so that the elastic is now hidden and that'll form a nice waistband for the pants. Now, because I don't have to finish the hem of my pants, I actually use the edge of the cardigan that's already finished. But if you're doing this for your own pants, you might want to finish them off with a zigzag, similar to how we did the elastic, but you don't have to use elastic, just simply fold them up at the right length for you and then zigzag them in place. And all that's left to do is to give them a really nice press. As always, you should actually press throughout the sewing process, but I'm lazy like that and I like to do it all at the end. So give them a nice press so that all your seams are nice and flat. And if you used an old garment like I did, then you can just use the lint remover to give it a nice once over so that all the little lint balls are removed and your garment looks nice and fresh. Then your project is done.
So there you go, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. It's always so satisfying when your flip turns out how you envisaged. And I was super happy with how these pants turned out. I'm wearing them right now and probably for the rest of the day, because here in Melbourne, even though it is summer, it is about 18 or 19 degrees. And cloudy and overcast. So these pants will no doubt come in useful all year round. If you had a go, I would love to see how yours turned out. You can find me on Instagram at Slew Living, that's Slow with an E. Otherwise, subscribe to my channel here and you can find more thrift flips, tutorials on how to mend your clothes, take care of your clothes, as well as creating clothes from scratch. I think it's a really great way to get to know how garments are really made, which makes you have a greater appreciation for them, which makes you hold on to them longer, which makes less of an impact on the environment and the social impacts. So if you're interested in any of those things, do follow along, subscribe, and I would love to see you next time.